They say trust is built over years and destroyed in minutes. I never thought I would be the woman sitting alone in a dark room, watching security footage of my own husband. Realizing that the man I loved had already left our marriage long before he walked out the door. I thought betrayal looked like shouting, like slammed doors, like obvious signs. I was wrong. Sometimes betrayal smiles at you, kisses you goodnight, and sleeps beside you, while your life quietly collapses. My name is Emily Carter. I had been married to Jason Carter for almost 6 years. 6 ordinary years. 6 years of routines, compromises, shared mornings, and quiet evenings. 6 years of believing we were solid. From the outside, our life looked perfect. A cozy apartment, steady jobs, family dinners, and our greatest miracle, our 1-year-old daughter, Lily. Jason was a devoted father, the kind of man who proudly carried our daughter through the grocery store, who talked about her non-stop, who told friends and co-workers how lucky he was. And I believed him. For years, I had no reason not to. Jason worked for a private consulting firm, not a corporate giant, not a flashy company, just one of those places where everyone calls each other family. Until you realize how easily that word is used to excuse anything. When he first mentioned the New Year's corporate party, something inside me tightened. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't suspicion. It was something deeper. A quiet, uncomfortable feeling in my chest. I couldn't explain it. No evidence. No reason. Just a feeling. The party was planned weeks in advance. And weeks before it happened, Jason changed. Not drastically, not obviously. Just enough. New shirts appeared in his closet. Ones I'd never seen before. Then he bought cologne. Strong, sharp, unfamiliar. When I told him I didn't like the smell, he laughed. "You won't even be there," he said casually. "It's just for the party. I'll shower when I'm back." That sentence stayed with me, because it wasn't what he said. It was how easily he said it. Then there was the suit. Perfectly tailored, carefully chosen. Too perfect for a casual work event. I asked him why he needed to dress that well. "Everyone's dressing up," he said. "There's a contest, just for fun." I smiled. I trusted him. I wanted to trust him. The party was supposed to run from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. Nothing unusual. I had stayed home with Lily before, while Jason attended company events. But this time, something felt wrong. On December 30th, a taxi arrived. I kissed him goodbye, helped him with his coat, and, almost without thinking, asked, "Are you sure you want to go?" He paused, just for a second. "I have to," he said. "It wouldn't look good if I didn't. My boss hates refusals." The taxi door closed, and the moment it drove away, the apartment felt empty, not quiet. Empty? I tried to distract myself, fed Lily, bathed her, put her to bed, cleaned the kitchen, turned on the TV. Nothing helped. At 10 p.m., I called Jason. The music was loud, voices everywhere. "When are you coming home?" I asked, raising my voice. "They decided to continue," he shouted back. "Probably a couple more hours." Through the noise, I heard someone call his name. A woman's voice, laughing. The line disconnected. Midnight came. Jason didn't. His phone was off. I didn't sleep. I called co-workers, friends, anyone whose number I had. Nothing. At dawn, I packed Lily's things and drove her to my mother's house. Just in case, I told myself. I didn't want to say the words out loud. Jason finally came home the next evening, just hours before New Year's. Relaxed, slightly drunk, smiling. He kissed me like nothing had happened. And in that moment, I knew. Something had already broken. He walked into our apartment like a man who had nothing to hide. No guilt, no fear, no urgency. Just a lazy smile, and the same familiar voice I had trusted for years. "Why are you looking at me like that?" He laughed. "What's wrong?" I stared at him, trying to recognize the man I married. His phone was back on. His suit smelled like hotel soap, not like home. "Your phone was off," I said quietly. He blinked. "Was it? That's weird. I didn't even notice. Probably died." I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. Not yet. He went straight to the shower, like he needed to wash something off. When he came out, he headed to the kitchen and started talking, fast, nervously, about food, plans, New Year's resolutions. Too much talking. I asked the question that had been burning inside me all day. "Where were you?" He didn't hesitate. "The party," he said. "I drank too much. Passed out in the cab. My coworker Rachel took me to her place. I slept on the couch." I watched his face. Every muscle, every pause. He sounded convincing, almost rehearsed. "I felt awful all day," he continued. "Couldn't even move. That's why I didn't come back earlier." "So you're telling me the truth?" I asked. "Why would I lie to you?" he replied softly. That night we welcomed the new year together. He hugged me, kissed me, sat me on his lap like he used to. And for the first time in my life, it felt wrong. Not loving, not warm, performative. After midnight, Jason said he was exhausted and went to bed. I didn't. At sunrise, while he was still snoring beside me, I got dressed. I knew where the party had taken place. And I knew something else too. If I stayed in that bed one more minute, I would lose myself completely. I turned my phone off before driving there. I didn't want him calling me. I didn't want my resolve to crack. The hotel looked quiet. Too quiet for what my instincts were screaming. At the front desk, I asked about the New Year's event. The security manager was a woman in her 50s. Calm, polite, guarded. "Yes, the company rented the restaurant," she said. "And several hotel rooms." My chest tightened. "They didn't leave after the party?" She shook her head. "Everything was prepaid. Guests stayed overnight." I asked about security footage. She refused. "Confidential information?" I nodded. Then I did something I had never done in my life. I paid. A security guard led me to a small room and copied the footage onto a flash drive. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. On the drive home, I kept telling myself, maybe you're wrong. Maybe you're overreacting. Maybe you're destroying your own marriage. I wasn't. I watched it alone. I wish I hadn't. I saw Jason walking down the hallway. Not drunk, not helpless, confident. A woman's hand was on his waist. They stopped outside a room. They kissed. Not like co-workers, like lovers. They went inside. An hour later, Jason came out, then returned with another woman. What followed destroyed every memory I had ever trusted. Laughter, champagne, hands, bodies. My husband, the father of my child. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I felt something worse. Numb. They left the room the next morning. Jason didn't come home until evening. I sat there for hours replaying the same scenes. Until the front door opened. I didn't leave Jason with screaming. I left him with silence. And silence, as it turns out, is far more brutal. The divorce wasn't fast. It never is when lies have been living in a marriage for years. Jason tried to fight it, tried to twist the story, tried to make himself the victim. But facts don't care about excuses. There was the footage. There were messages. There was proof. His company quietly let him go. No scandal, no explanations. Just a polite email and a closed door. The women he had been with? They didn't stay. One of them filed for divorce. The other moved back to her parents with her children. And Jason lost everything he thought was permanent. The job, the respect, the friends who used to laugh with him at parties. People don't like being reminded of what betrayal looks like. They stopped inviting him, stopped answering his calls. Even his parents stopped defending him, because some things are impossible to justify. He tried to come back. Not once, not twice, many times. Messages at night, apologies that sounded rehearsed, promises that arrived too late. I've changed. I finally understand. We belong together, but I had already learned something important. Love without respect is just fear of being alone, and I was no longer afraid. The first months after the divorce were the hardest. Not because I missed him, but because I had to relearn myself. I learned how to wake up without checking my phone, how to breathe without waiting for someone else's approval, how to sit in silence and not feel abandoned. Some nights, I cried quietly so Lily wouldn't hear. Other nights, I felt something new. Peace. Slow. Fragile. Real. Time passed. Not dramatically. Not magically. Just honestly. I stopped asking why. I stopped replaying the footage in my mind. I stopped measuring my worth through someone else's choices. And one day, I realized something surprising. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was living. It happened on an ordinary day. No music, no fireworks, just coincidence. I was picking up coffee after work, balancing my bag and my thoughts, when someone held the door open for me. A stranger. Warm smile, kind eyes, nothing extraordinary, except how calm I felt. We talked. Not flirtation, not pressure, just conversation. Days later, we met again. And again. He didn't rush me, didn't ask for explanations, didn't need to be convinced of my worth. He listened, really listened. And for the first time in years, I felt safe being quiet around someone. I didn't fall in love overnight. I didn't want to. I wanted to choose this time. And slowly, carefully, I did. He knew about my past, about Jason, about the betrayal. He never compared himself, never competed with a ghost. He simply showed up, consistently. Sometimes I think about Jason, not with anger, not with pain, just clarity. He thought he was chasing excitement. What he really lost was stability, trust, family. The kind of love that doesn't scream, but stays. And I gained something far more valuable than revenge. I gained myself. Sometimes love doesn't end with screaming. It doesn't always shatter plates or slam doors. Sometimes it dies quietly. It dies in the moment you realize that you've been shrinking yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. I didn't leave because I stopped loving him. I left because I started losing myself. I stayed longer than I should have. I believed longer than was safe. I kept hoping, even when my heart already knew the truth. And when I finally walked away, I didn't feel strong. I felt empty. But emptiness has a strange gift. It gives you space. Space to breathe. Space to heal. Space to remember who you were before you learned to accept less than you deserved. I didn't lose my husband. I lost the illusion of who I thought he was. He lost something else. He lost a woman who would have stayed, who believed, who loved without conditions. And I found something I never expected to find again. Myself. And one day, when my heart was quiet, when I wasn't searching, when I wasn't afraid to be alone, life placed someone gently in my path. Not to rescue me, not to complete me, but to walk beside me. And that's when I understood. Real love doesn't ask you to disappear. It doesn't make you doubt your worth. It doesn't leave you alone in the dark, wondering why you weren't enough. Real love stays. And this time, so did I.